guys, tell me just a little bit about what you've been up to and what you feel called to do in your marriage ministry.
That's great. Last time we saw you, I was
Mhm.
stuck in the back of one of the smallest pickup trucks on the planet. And when I got out, we were trying to video it and I got tangled up and it was a clown show. So since then, I've gotten less athletic. What we've been doing is really just powering down and working on really helping marriages. That's been our great kind of mission, especially together. We've been married for over 33 years and we have 9 kids and 8 grandkids. And really, our kind of it's not like we're pretending that we're experts, but
Mhm.
you don't accidentally stay together for 33 plus years. And I think what we realize is that it would be ridiculous not to share some of the tricks of the trade. So that's what we've been really doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken lots of different forms. And
Mhm.
so we are still doing a lot of work local and actually around the world doing marriage ministry. So locally, we do a lot of working with pre-married couples. We do that in different dioceses also. And then we do a lot of marriage retreats and marriage talks and all
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. So, and then we also have the teachable account. We have like courses, and then the newest thing is the podcast. All of it centering around marriage. Because I think what we want to do is again not say, "Hey, we're doing it right, follow our lead," but we want to inspire people to understand that their marriage can be way better than they think or imagine it to
Mhm.
be. So,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
that marriage is awesome. We just
Yeah.
want to inspire people to think that it is really an awesome thing, and
Mhm.
that the world paints such a drab picture of it. But anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, 9 kids and 8 grandkids, I bet that's a lot. So how do you prioritize marriage with such a big family?
Well,
Mhm.
we ignore the children. And
Best answer ever.
no, I mean we love being together. That's the truth is
Yeah.
that we met in high school, we were 17. We loved being together. We became each other's best friends, and even in the early years when we had a lot of little ones, we would just remind the kids, when you're gone and you leave the house and you go off and do your thing, she was here before you and she's going to be here after you. And
Mhm.
and really, even things like when kids were being maybe disrespectful or saying something they shouldn't have, then I would say something along the lines of, don't talk to my girlfriend like that, or don't talk to my wife like that. Because I think what I wanted them to realize is that our relationship is separate
Mhm.
from who they are
Mhm.
to a large degree, but also is inclusive of who they are to a large degree. And so we still are each other's best friends. We love hanging out together. My
Aw.
idea of alone time is being with Linda. Her idea of alone time is not being with me.
Yeah,
So is actually being alone. But
That's cute.
we do seem to get along and we like
yeah.
we like what we're doing.
Yeah.
I love that because what you're saying is there's that security for kids growing up
Mhm.
that like when they see how much their parents really love each other and that they are prioritizing each other, like then the kids can walk away with that comfort of like, okay, like I'm safe in this relationship. And I think they are looking for that. And I think it's especially challenging in the world today that can oftentimes be so opposed to Catholicism and what we believe. Parents now more than ever have that obligation to teach their kids what's right and what's moral. So, what advice do you have for parents who are just going against that wave of secularism in society? How can they really teach their kids what is good?
Well, I think they stand up for what they believe in a
Mhm.
loving, compassionate manner, so
Mhm.
that our kids go to public school here in New York, and which was very scary because we did homeschooling, we did
Mm.
Catholic school,
Mm.
and we finally put them into public school here. It was scary, but
Yeah.
so they've been exposed to everything, but they know we do a lot of just open discussions, and that
Mhm.
we encourage our kids to love other people, be compassionate and understanding of their own struggles, of other people's struggles and issues. But this is what we believe as Catholics, to make
Mhm.
that very clear. But I really think the biggest thing that we can do as parents for our children is to live the faith
Yeah.
openly to them.
Mhm.
You can talk,
Mhm.
talk, 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 talk all you want. They get talked at school. They get talked at on video, on the phones. They get
Mhm.
talked at all the time. But how much do they get modeled? Like
Mm.
really modeled, and modeling relationship with God. That it's
Yeah.
it's it's in our vocabulary. Everything we talk about. They're in the car, in the back seat when we're talking about theological things, when we're
Mm.
praising God, Christian music in the car. They
Yeah,
Mhm.
they
yeah,
see us reading things, but they watch. I mean, they see us playing video games. They see us doing other things. They hear us
yeah.
fighting. They see it all. But
Right,
as a
right.
part of that, it's we love Jesus, and that's our, and so when you teach and model that relationship, the Lord is big enough to handle
Mhm.
all that the world throws at them.
Yeah,
And so I
yeah.
want them to walk away knowing Jesus and having
Mhm.
that reliance on him. And it means that they're going to struggle. But I tell my kids, I don't pray that your life is easy. I pray that you learn to depend on God. And that
Mm,
means they're
I
going to
love that.
struggle, but because that's in the end, nothing else matters. Nothing else
Mhm.
matters.
Amen,
So,
amen.
mm,
And, parents are the primary educators of their children, and I think it's a scary responsibility, but it's an amazing responsibility, so
mhm.
great.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is. It's scary.
yeah.
We teach them lots of things that we don't want them to learn.
Right, right.
So, the first time, a kid spurts out a cuss word, you're like, where'd they get that from? Yeah.
It's like, "Where'd
And,
they
I
get
mean, and
that?"
now with their own grandchildren, like we just think, oh, you just wait.
Yeah.
Your kids are gonna model what you do, and they're gonna learn
Mhm,
that lesson.
mhm.
So, whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just so impressed that like you're just so open to life. Like having 9 kids, like
Mhm.
most families, you see maybe 2, 3, like typically. So what does it mean to be open to life, according to the Catholic Church?
Well, the Catholic Church has a lot to say about marriage, and interestingly,
Mhm,
unitive, procreative when it comes to the act,
mhm,
but also the idea of the possibility, being open to the possibility of marriage, even from the beginning. So, you can have a couple enter into a sacramental marriage if they're completely closed off to the idea of the possibility of children. So
mhm,
every unit of act does not necessarily mean that it's going to like result in a child, obviously, but the church wants this act to be a witness to the world that the way that God loves, it's here's a fancy word, like God's love there's a fecundity, a life-giving reality that is at work. So God pours forth from who he is, Father, Son, and Spirit, and that unity of the Trinity, which is going to blow your mind, but it's a complete gift from one to the other, and that's life-giving. The best way that that can be modeled in space and time is that unitive and potentially even procreative possibility of a husband and wife who come together and are complete gift of self from one to the other. So the church never looks and says, oh, great, you guys are, attracted to each other and you have passion and you have common
Mhm.
interests. So now, yeah, you should definitely be married, which, by the way, is great. And you should be attracted and passionate and have common interests to a degree. But the reason that the Catholic Church is so keen on and big on marriage is that it witnesses to the world what love really looks like. And
mhm,
so that's why it's till death do us part, because God's love is not fickle. It doesn't just kind of enter in and then just enter out because it's inconvenient, right? Rich, poor. We do these vows almost haphazardly, but it's serious business and it's a great opportunity and responsibility.
Well, I think that, open to life, that there's so much, all that theology, all that the doctrine, the church teaching, it's beautiful and it's heavy, but in the reality, what does it look like to be open to life is very different for every couple.
Yeah.
mhm,
And it is not an easy thing. We
mhm,
can paint the picture to be beautiful because it is. I mean, life is beautiful,
mhm,
but there's so many couples out there struggling to conceive,
mhm,
that and so yes, we can say you gotta be open, at least you gotta be
Mhm.
open, whether or not you have children, but there's such a pain and an agony there in couples who are struggling with infertility. or struggling with they want more than two. They have the two, and I've talked to many couples who feel judged for only having two, and because they're sitting next to couple families with 5 or 6 kids, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
and for whatever reason that there's so many health issues, there's mental health issues, there's all that can play into the effect of what it looks like for that family to be open to life. And then I think also the rose colored image of, oh, 9 kids, that,
Mm.
Mm.
and
Mhm.
that it's hard. I mean, I don't know. There are some people out there who set out to say, I want 12 kids, and they are happy, they love being pregnant, and that's what they've done, and I fought it the whole way. I did
Yeah.
never set out to have 9 kids. I did not.
Wow.
I hated being pregnant.
Hmm.
And it was not easy, but
Mm.
do I regret it? Heck no. I love
Right.
my kids. I
Mm.
just today just relishing in the gifts of the Lord, and that's the one
Mm.
that comes up all the time
Yeah.
is, wow, Lord, you've blessed me that this is hard, but what a blessing it is. And so, I know, whatever that is, what is open to life? It
Well,
has to be that personal journey.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
think that open to life can be also open to loss. There's a lot of couples that
Mhm.
we know have had numerous miscarriages, and you would
Mm.
never imagine that, but
Yeah.
it is. I think it's really important to recognize that. Yeah, it's good to burst the idealized bubble
Mm.
because
Mm.
many scenarios and situations that are beyond. Well, we were trying to tell the Lord that it was okay for Him to bless us in other ways. Uh, but
Sure, it can be
yeah,
nice.
I mean, how, but yeah, so,
Yeah.
but, but yeah, it is,
Mhm.
there's loss and there's life when
Mm.
you talk about this idea of complete gift of self to one another. And I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
Yeah.
every couple has their own story. It's not our responsibility or job to go into their world and judge. You should definitely have more than two kids
Mm.
because we don't know
Mhm.
the
Mm.
full story of what's going
Right. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
No,
Yeah.
there's a real beauty in what you're saying there, that there's that quest to know, okay, what is God's calling for me, and to
Mm.
avoid comparison to other people, and to think, oh, right there, they're the perfect Catholic family, and I'm not measuring up to that. And not just with raising kids, but I think just marriage in general. It can be so tempting to be like, yeah, like they have it all together and we don't.
Mhm.
So what do you say to those couples who are maybe getting into that temptation to believe that kind of thing, that like there's something wrong?
Right. I think one of my all-time favorite quotes is, don't judge the inside of your home to the outside of somebody else's.
Hmm.
Don't judge the inside of your marriage or your family to the outside of somebody else's. We have experienced that, looking at this ideal family, all
Mm.
these kids, they pray the rosary every night, they're in daily
Mm.
mass, they homeschool, and they seem normal, not like floating above the ground and singing Latin all the time, like just normal, down to earth, beautiful family that ended in divorce.
Hmm.
So and infidelity was not the issue. We don't know the full story, but
Sure.
it's like mind blowing. They like
Mm.
both husband and wife. You would see them
Mhm.
in daily mass in separate masses,
Um,
even after the divorce.
Mhm.
You're like, what? Well, how
Like, what
can they not make
happens?
it work? Right?
Right,
yeah.
right.
No, we have no idea
Yeah.
all of that. And so it's so dangerous to compare. It's so unjust. It's unjust
Mm.
to yourself and to your family, to your marriage, to
Yeah.
compare because you have no
Mm.
idea what's going on.
Amen.
And so I think for us, we've always, we're not going to air all the dirty laundry, but we want people to see us for who we are, that
Mhm.
we are awkward and,
Mhm.
whatever. You're very awkward. But but, that
In a
gets a
great way.
lot of people, we don't want people to think that we have it all
Mm.
together because
Yeah.
we do not have it all
Yeah.
together. The Lord has just been very generous, and but that is such a dangerous place, that comparison. Did you want to say
Mm.
something, honey?
No.
I think he's a little he's a little hurt about that awkward.
Yeah, I'm trying to get through that. This is
Do
the
you want to
first
talk
time
about
I've
that,
ever
Chris?
heard
Do you want to talk about how that made you feel? You know?
Yeah, how'd that make you feel,
it.
honey?
No,
Some
it's
therapy?
true. I am awkward. I think we talk a lot about the idea of couples, you're creating your own world. And
Mhm.
it's a weird way to say it, but it's impossible to do that if you're trying to hijack, the uniqueness of you in your relationship
Mhm.
and kind of superimpose somebody else's, plan, so to speak.
Mhm. Mhm.
There are maybe some basics that we have, like allowing Christ into that relationship, being a part of the sacramental life, but at the end of the day, the way that we love, the way that we lay down our life, the way that we are gift to one another is going to look a little bit different because there's such an intimacy in knowing one another that allows for you to be gift to one another in that way.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
and also there's a kind of an opportunity to sacrifice selfish behavior that will be unique to each couple anyways. So you know you're creating a world, and that world is something that's going to impact eternity, because your children grow up in that world, or you, as you lay down your life for each other, you journey towards sanctity together, and that world is kind of the big road that you walk together. And I love that. I think that's one of the great joys. If we were trying to have our relationship like everybody else's, I never would have done the band. We never would have moved to Ohio. We never would
Mhm.
have done hardly any of this stuff because it was unconventional. It didn't fit into anybody's plans of what. In
Mhm.
fact, we wouldn't have our firstborn because we
Mhm.
were encouraged to contracept when we
Wow.
got married. And a few months into that, we're like, forget this. Like, we want to
Mhm.
start our family if
Yeah.
that's okay. And yeah, so like this world idea is a big part of our kind of our mission.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, amen to that. It's a beautiful testimony. Thank you for that. Yeah. Did you have anything?
Do you have any?
Well, yeah, let's talk more a little bit about like, getting into like when family life gets really busy,
Mhm.
when the kids are running around and we because we talk about prioritizing marriage, right? But how do you do that in concrete terms? Like what are your favorite date night ideas? What are your favorite things to do on your own? And not only just in terms of like the fun things, but also spiritual things too.
Well, Linda's really good about creating events for our family to participate in. I mean, if it were up to me, I would basically just be reading all the time, and the kids could do whatever they want. I don't.
Yeah.
But Linda insists that we do things as a family, and
Boring.
so we have to go hiking, and we have to go. But honestly, though, it's been a real treat. I mean, we have a scrapbook filled with pictures, so to speak, because of the way that Linda's brain works. And so, like, for example, we did on the property Bilbo's birthday last year,
Hmm.
which was everybody dressed up like hobbits and whatever, and they came, and we had literally like Hobbit Town, like it was
Wow.
that here. We all get crazy and we'll go to the medieval festival coming up, or there'll be the Scottish festival. So there are these huge things that we as a family will just all go to and do and be a part of. But for many years with us as a family, depending on the age of the kids, there would be things like we would pray, for example, the Divine Mercy Chaplet when we drove around,
Mhm.
Mhm.
or we would do the rosary every night as a family, maybe after dinner, or we would, just try to shove the kids to bed because we just wanted a few minutes to talk to each other. I mean, so
Mhm.
like this is the thing about a marriage, is that I think people feel like I'll get everything structured and implemented in place, and then I'll have the perfect marriage. We did A and then we did B, and now we get
Mhm.
automatically C.
Yeah.
The truth is that you have seasons in your marriage, and sometimes you're doing a lot better at all the things that you want to do,
Mhm.
and all the things you don't want to do, are dismissed into the wayside. But there are other times it's reversed, and you're overwhelmed and you feel lost. And so Linda's had some great advice that she's given to couples before, like
Mhm.
sometimes don't worry about making the fancy meals and making everything all perfect. Just order some pizza, sit down and watch a movie together as a family.
I love
Like
it.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
think that that's the key for us in our role as parents, is how do we, you know, prepare them for this thing called life? Yes, and teach them what a relationship can look like. Yes, but how do we also um, allow them, give them opportunities to start becoming who they're meant to be?
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, as a family, it's a seasonal thing when it comes to the family, but throughout the years, now we hold a position when it comes to balancing being parents
Mhm,
and being spouses,
mhm.
right? How do you balance that, right?
Right,
That's
right.
what you're asking. And so I think we have I think it's a very unpopular opinion that we have, and it was for us, it was a decision we made because out of survival. Chris, all these years, Chris has been a traveling. He'd be gone most weekends out of an entire year, at easily 40 weekends, easily out of an entire year. And I'm dealing with the kids that whole weekend. And so like it was impossible for me to be in every place that a kid wanted to be.
Sure.
So we had to restrict their involvement.
Mm,
And so our kids that really it was once they got old enough, middle school, high school, usually that's when sports started. We
mm,
didn't start our kids in soccer at 5 years old. And we never ever did the thing where, okay, Chris ran and took these kids to this, and then I took these kids here, and we
mhm,
would meet up here, and
mhm.
and that's what we see. This is what I see all the time in couples that they're so busy.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I have clients as a counselor. I have clients that sit across from me and to listen them listing their day of
Mhm.
all the
Mm.
things they're going to. I'm like, when do you have time with your
Mm.
spouse? You know,
Yeah,
that the
if
kids
Yeah.
are
something's
fine.
wrong, yeah.
Right. And but that's normal. That's
Mhm.
expected that we need
Right.
to pour our lives. We have these kids for the short amount of time and everything needs to be consumed with that.
Mhm, mhm,
We disagree with that. That
mm,
we tell our kids that our relationship is priority. It is the most important, other than our relationship with God, our marriage is the most important relationship in the family because
yeah.
without
Yeah.
it, the family collapses.
Right.
Right,
And so that I looked at kids, you know what? You're if you end up being a pro ball player, awesome. But that can happen. What do we do?
right.
How do we get that?
I love the special
That's
effects.
great,
That's
that's
great.
great.
What are you
I
doing?
This is just getting more real as we speak.
I don't know. How did we do that? I have no idea how that
Okay,
happened.
I need you to stop
Okay, I'll
lifting
stop.
your thumb up.
Okay, I'll stop doing it. But always around the corner. So
It's so funny.
That's so great.
okay. I don't know how that
How did
okay,
the
we're gonna
fireworks happen?
we'll figure that out later. But all right. So anyway, I think that we just see so many people um
This is a great moment.
they're running ragged. That's the thing. They're
Mhm,
running
Yeah.
ragged,
mhm,
doing
Yeah.
this, trying to be the perfect parents, giving their kids every experience they can possibly have. And
mhm.
we just said, you know what, younger kids, you're going to go with us to the older kids' soccer game, and we're going to be a
Wow,
family cheering on this kid as a soccer game. I'm not taking you to dance and
wow,
and
Mm.
then running to the soccer game. It is
wow.
all of us are doing that. I would take
Yeah.
dinner to
That's
the
perfect.
soccer game
I love
and we
that.
have dinner there. And
Yeah.
That's cool.
and as the younger ones, and I don't know, and again, it's very imperfect. We're not saying this is a perfect way to do it, but for us, I I think that is how we manage to maintain our sanity for one thing,
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
and
Yeah.
the priority of our marriage over running ragged as parents is hard enough.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
Yeah.
bad,
absolutely.
let alone taking on
Absolutely.
every
Burn yourself out from it. So,
Yeah.
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 So like they say like it takes a village to raise a child. So what resources have helped you as you have been raising your children? Has there been anything that you've turned to that has helped you?
Hmm.
Hmm. Good
I
question.
don't know how I feel about it takes a village to raise a kid. I'm not sure that that's what I would say. So I know that's a very common phrase,
Yeah.
Mhm,
and I can understand the reason for it. But we have had some really negative experiences with a village.
hmm,
And
Mm,
I think what we realized is that as long as we're the chief input in our kids'
yeah.
lives,
mhm.
then that's great.
Yeah.
So, because there are places that they're going to go where the adults are not, uh, you know, holding to the same things that we're holding to.
Right.
Right.
This
Right.
is opens a can of worms, because in one part, we don't believe there's two types of kind of parenting. I feel like there's
Mhm.
offensive and defensive. You kind of got to do a little bit of both, but some people are usually extremes in one or the other. So on the one hand, there's this defensive where they don't want their kids to be involved in anything because they're afraid they're going to be subjected to all sorts of moral dilemmas. And by
Right,
the way,
right.
that
Yeah.
absolutely will be the case. So
Yeah.
that's why offensive parenting is really important. You have to be aware, ask questions. What are they watching? Watch it with them. See if there's a
Mhm.
way for you to kind of talk about some stuff that's difficult. We have a really interesting and awesome relationship with our kids in that they can talk to us about anything, and we
Mm,
have real conversations at any moment. That doesn't
mm,
happen accidentally. You got to really do that from when they're little on. But this
mm,
idea of a village raising the kids. So we've tried our hand at looking at some of the parenting books and parenting plans. And honestly, this is the problem with parenting books, is that they work a little bit some of the time. But
Mm.
what people want the universal, here's the structure to put it in place, and
mhm,
now everything's going to be great because A plus B is supposed to be C.
Mhm.
But
mhm,
that does not work. That might work for the person's kid who wrote the book,
Yeah.
mhm,
but it
mhm.
doesn't always work for all the kids. So I can say, yeah, because we did the daily mass thing for a long time when we
Mm.
lived in Ohio, especially. Not everybody's able and capable of doing that. So
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
saying
Right.
that
this
makes
is an
sense.
imperative. This is huge. Now we have the parish village who's helping to raise our
Mm.
kids. The truth
Mm,
is, that's an impossible thing for certain families to implement.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
I guess ultimately at the end of the day, we sift through a truckload of content, and then we pick and choose little nuggets, and it might be the smallest little thing, and we'll
Mm,
take that and we use it. It's like we're building our own
Yeah.
curriculum,
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
and that's what works for us.
But I mean, honestly, I think, through the years, we've had good friends that we
Yeah.
Mhm.
could, especially older
That you
people
trust.
who have
Mhm.
kids
Mhm,
older than us, that we
mhm.
could ask, hey, is this normal? What should we do
Yeah.
about that? And the best advice we always got was relax. It's going to
Yeah.
be
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
honestly, that I don't know if young couples or young people want to hear that. They want to, like you said, they want to know the A plus B. That's
Mm.
fix it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They want
But
the answer.
it's usually, it's gonna be okay.
No, we really appreciate the time, guys. This is really good. Linda, I think you had some thoughts too about like it takes a village.
Right. Well, or the idea of resources. I think that's kind of
Okay,
what you're
yeah,
saying, right?
yeah.
About resources. And so I think the first resources is friends,
Mhm,
people having you know, who've been there before. I
mhm,
think that, and so what we were just talking about, this idea of that Pinterest perfect, Instagram
Mm. Yeah.
mhm,
perfect image that we are so quick to go there for resources.
Mhm.
mhm,
But it's not, there's not, it's, it may be good stuff there, but
mhm.
like Chris was saying, it's not always maybe applicable to you and your
Yeah.
situation. So
Sure,
having
Right.
somebody
sure.
who knows you and to be able to give you advice is the best resource. And then one thing I did, because I worry so much about my kids. I want, again, to me, the most important thing for my kids is their
Mhm.
eternal salvation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I even when they were so young, I just felt so incapable of being all that they need. And I
Mhm.
feel that way still. I'm still not capable of being all my kids need.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I would put them down to bed when I would up in the middle of the night feeding them. I'd always pray. My prayer was always, Lord, make up in them what is lacking in me.
Oh.
Mm,
That He makes up what I am not capable of doing. Uh,
Yeah.
but one resource I tapped into was I contacted any religious order that had perpetual adoration.
Wow.
And I
wow.
signed up for their whatever. Like I joined their order and got a little card and sent in a prayer request that
Mhm,
I paid the money and they're going to pray perpetually.
Oh.
For
mm,
most of them were like 15 years. And so
mm,
I
mm,
sent in the money. I gave my kid's name. I have the card. I put it in their baby box and I
Oh.
had to redo it after a certain point that
mm.
Yeah.
like, so
Yeah.
I just feel like there's other people praying
That's
nonstop for my
amazing.
kids
Mhm,
Yeah.
besides me,
That's
tapping into the saints, that those kind of resources, that the other earthly ones, that those are the ones that can make the big difference. You know, and I love that bumper sticker. Prayer is our greatest weapon against evil, you know, and so
Mhm.
having other people praying for your kids and for your
Yeah. Yeah.
is not a bad resource.
I think that's the village that we want.
The saintly
The
village.
have
Yeah,
Yeah.
the heavenly
Well,
village.
because a
Yeah.
lot of this stuff is very fad driven. So, for
Yeah,
example,
Yeah.
when we were young and had our first child, the big thing was what's called the family bed. This was a big idea where you basically you don't let your baby be in another room. So you let
Oh,
them
yeah.
sleep in the same bed as you. And
Mm.
there's a million reasons why that wasn't going to work out for us.
Mhm.
And so then we thought, well, we have a little bassinet, which is like almost like this little tiny crib thing that you could put on the almost even on the bed if you wanted,
Mhm.
or on the ground next to your bed. But then every single like chirp and slurp and peep would keep Linda up all night, so she was never going to function as a human being.
Mhm.
And so, and then there was the big debate: do you let the baby cry or not cry? And
Mhm.
that ebbs and flows, it changes and it
Mhm.
comes back around all of the time. And at some point, what we realize is that, okay, you know what? These things we can kind of figure out on our own and what works for us,
Yeah.
because the baby's going to let you know
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
kind of going on.
Yeah.
But the other part, there's a fad right now where people are really interested in influencers who basically have lots of followers. They look really good and they seem
Mhm.
like they got everything together, but honestly, they don't even have any kids, or they maybe have a couple kids. And the truth is that you can have one kid figure it out and the next kid comes out completely different and you're pulling your hair
Mm.
out. I mean,
Mhm.
it is so insane. I mean, ask any family that has more than a couple kids, and you can say, do you have one universal thing that works all the time for all of the kids exactly? And the answer is no. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I don't know where to belabor this
No,
point,
no, this is
right
good. Yeah.
now, whatever. I think another good resource
Mhm.
that will benefit a marriage
Mhm.
and your parenting skills is the effort of a person to learn about who they are.
Mm.
Mm.
So the effort you put into understanding yourself,
Mm.
whether it's you know, I think of even attachment styles,
Yeah.
understanding what
Yeah.
your attachment style is, why you are the way you are, why do you respond a certain way to certain things, will help you be a better spouse and
Mhm.
help you be a better parent because you
Mhm.
understand instead of reacting. So
Sure.
that, you know, so learning the psychology of parenting, okay, sure. But I think the time spent is very well spent in understanding your own psychology, understanding who you are, why you act the way you are, you know, and then apply that even spiritually. Have the Lord,
Yeah.
invite the Lord into that space. That
Mhm.
this is who I am, why I am the way I am. Lord, can
Yeah.
you know come into that space and heal that and make me better. You know, make me the better parent, a better spouse, right? And so I think
Yeah.
that's a good resource that maybe we came at that much later. It's
Mm.
definitely more common today.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but to have that understanding of, oh, that's why I react so harshly to that, you know,
Sure. Sure.
situation.
Yeah.
It's
No, that
very helpful.
that's so interesting because like Kathy and I like we like look at the four temperaments and understanding like okay,
Mm,
this is like how God made us. And when we first got married we thought, oh, like we have the same exact temperament blend. But then as time has gone on we're like, no, I think we actually it is a little different.
Mhm.
So and that's actually
Yeah.
helped us to like appreciate just
mhm,
the minor differences
Yeah.
between us. And so I think that like God made us all unique, he made us all different,
mhm,
and so we can celebrate that. But like you said, just the self-awareness can lead to the benefit of other people too,
Hmm.
right.
because it
Love
cuts down on
languages, right.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, there's a lot of that. This personality tests, the love languages.
mhm, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So
That's
yeah.
great. That's really good stuff. Yeah. Well, so I want to hear what do you plan then for your podcast, the Chris and Linda Show? What can people expect, and where can they find it?
So if you go to chrisandlindapadgett.com, obviously the website there will take you to a number of different things. You can explore things for your diocese and for you individually. There's also connected to that a Teachable account, which basically has free videos and also paywall for other videos. But
Okay.
what we're doing, launching the Chris and Linda show, this is really kind of almost universally available free for everyone. It will be in the podcast format, but also YouTube. So on YouTube, if you go Chris and Linda Padgett,
Mhm.
that comes up. And there's really only a couple things there that are commercials. Those are silly. And yes, there will be a comedic blend inside to things because Linda can't stop making jokes. But
It's all her, I'm sure. It's all
oh
her.
my
She's
gosh,
just trying to see it.
nonstop. Well, but the content is very rich, and
Yeah.
hopefully we'll be able to connect some PDF things to it and some other resource possibilities to it. There's going to eventually even be a Patreon connected to it where people can get extra content and kind of support the mission. And really, the truth is, this is being looked at more as a mission. We want more people to be involved in what we're doing. This is the great crisis, is marriages. We've talked a lot about a crisis in the priesthood and in the church, but
Yeah.
we're going to solve our priesthood crisis by holy marriages. That's how we solve that. And that's how we change our society and our culture and our world. But marriages right now are falling apart, period, whether you're Christian or secular. And so we're really doing a lot of work. We do all the pre-Canas for Syracuse and all the pre-Canas for Newark, New Jersey. We do pre-Cana work. I went to Australia, kind of walked through some stuff that we were doing with them there. And so internationally, nationally, the content is going up. It's going to help people pre-marriage, during marriage, and then long haul marriage. So 50, 60 years of marriage, that kind of stuff. And the content, I mean, it's always going to have stories connected to it and a little bit of comedic thing, but there's huge interactive possibilities where people can be a part of. We want to see something on this. Can you address this? And that's really a big part of what we're trying to hopefully launch here in the beginning of August 2024.
That's
For sure. I
awesome.
do love the mission. I do love that that
Yeah.
is what it is, that guy, the idea to inspire, not to say do XYZ and you're gonna have a perfect marriage just like us. Right.
Right,
But just to
right.
inspire, this is what a real marriage can look like.
Yeah.
But you can have what God wants for your marriage.
Mhm.
And so I think for us, we're bringing to the table our experience, both in marriage but and parenting, but primarily marriage. We want this to focus primarily on marriage.
Mhm.
And but there's every conversation will bring in theology. Chris has his STL, his master's in theology. He's very well studied, very well educated in theology. So he's going to talk about it. And I'm going to bring in the psychology with my degree. And so having that kind of balance there, along with experience and humor. So that's where the content's going to get deep, but then we keep it light and fun at the same time. So I think
Cool.
that's the goal. I think that's what we're shooting for. And I think we're doing it so far.
No, this is great. So, it's called the Chris and Linda Show. Your website, chrisandlindapadgett.com. So, encourage people to check out all the resources you have.
Yeah.
Any final words of wisdom, humor, wit, anything you'd like to share?
I think what I want to leave you with is this. The world talks a lot about relationships. They're very confused about relationships.
Yeah.
And so it's really kind of driven oftentimes with a kind of selfish tendencies. And they have an idealized version of what they think marriage and family is going to look like. And I just want you to know that if you give yourself to the Lord as a couple, then it is so much better than you've ever thought or imagined. And that's what we really believe, is that marriage is definitely something that can be better than you thought or imagined, but it's also going to be harder than you've ever
Yeah.
thought or imagined. And so
Yeah.
if you're willing to let God in, then I think something miraculous happens. And I think that we're just getting started. I mean, we've been married 33 plus years, but there's a part of me that feels like, well, we're just beginning. Like we're just getting to know each other more. And it's incredible. So my encouragement to you is, if you're struggling in marriage, know that God wants you to have a better marriage than even you do. And he's not giving up on you, and you don't need to give up on you. And the truth is, yes, it takes two to tango. And if the one person's not, just know that Jesus is with you in that pain and that suffering. At the end of the day, we're reachable. So if you want to reach out to us at any time, you can. Chris and Linda Padgett at gmail.com. But we're grateful. Thank you guys for letting us be a part of your podcast. And
Thank you.
thanks for asking us so many good questions.
Yeah, and Linda, any final thoughts?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think that was good.
Normally, she's not allowed to speak at
Yeah, I thought you said it good. So I will say thank you for the opportunity. So we
No,
do
we're
love
thankful.
talking about it. So
This
that
is
we,
awesome. Yeah. No,
Mhm.
Chris, I think it's just so cool. I had you as, marriage professor at Franciscan way back when, and here we are still talking about marriage. It's cool. I
Aw.
love it.
Oh, wait, so he taught you marriage?
Yeah, it was
What?
the Christian marriage class. It was
It's funny. The content from that showed up in a book, Holy Marriage, Happy Marriage. So
okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Linda and I really tweaked it and made it very relevant. And I think what we I still reference some of that stuff now and then too. So I think what we've realized is that we can talk about marriage forever. There's just so many caveats. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Sister Lucia said that's the final battle, marriage and the family. So we're you guys, we're just so grateful for what you're doing to fight for marriage, and really excited to tell people about it. So
Amen.
yeah.
All right.